The 22nd of April 1951, 27,000 Chinese attack a defensive line held by the British 29th Infantry Brigade, numbering just 4,000 men. The Battle of the River Imjin was underway. By its conclusion, the remaining members of 1st Battalion the Gloucestershire Regiment were fated for their bravery and determination. 62 years later, I've come to the Soldiers of Gloucestershire Museum to find out why. Archivist and curator David Reed explains what happened following the Chinese attack.
So 3 Chinese divisions attacking effectively 3 British battalions with supporting arms plus a Belgian battalion. And eventually the Gloucesters were overextended by the nature of the fact that they were outnumbered in the first place, they had to be, and eventually infiltrated and surrounded.
The Gloucesters found themselves on Hill 235, surrounded by Chinese troops and isolated from the rest of the brigade. Despite this, they fought on through the 24th and 25th of April.
Well, most of the fighting was done at night, so it's pretty terrifying. You've got this, the Chinese made a lot of use of bugles. They had no radio communication. This cacophony of old-fashioned noise combined with machine gun fire and shell fire. It was actually quite bewildering. Not the sort of noises you associate with the battlefield today, and in a way quite the last hurrah of bugles. And of course we have the famous incident where the Gloucesters return bugle fire, as it were, and they blow their own series of calls to stimulate their own men and put the fear of God up the Chinese. What the hell's going on?
Tens of thousands of those who fought in Korea were national servicemen who would have gone through basic training, living in a barrack room like this one. In fact, of the 866 Gloucesters who fought at Imjin, some 14% were national servicemen earning 18 shillings a week, and 43% were army reservists.
We had a lot of reservists called back, and I was fortunate to have a reservist for a gunner, and also there's a sergeant commander of the tank. And so they looked after us young boys. And they knew that we would eventually grow up. And we grew up, well, I and the rest of C Squadron of the 8th Hussars grew up at the Battle of the Imjin. And that was what we wanted. And as we didn't know what to expect, we weren't frightened.
Eventually, the Gloucesters could fight on no longer. On the morning of the 25th of April, the troops were told to make it back to the British lines as they could. 59 Gloucesters were killed in action, 180 wounded. 522 became prisoners of war, 34 of those dying in captivity. On April the 27th, 1st Battalion could only muster 217 men. However, around 10,000 Chinese personnel had died. The Battle of the Imjin River disrupted the Chinese advance, ultimately forcing them to abandon their spring offensive against the UN. At the time, the Americans recognised the huge importance of the Gloucesters' heroism, and their stand at Hill 235, now renamed Gloucester Hill, has become synonymous with what it is to be a British soldier. Tim Cooper, Forces News, Gloucester.